Welcome everyone. My name is Lisa Abel. I'm on the board for the Yellow Springs Development Corporation, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that is in a minute. In the meantime, I wanted to introduce our board and our ex officios, and I've got them listed up here so you don't have to remember everybody. And not everybody's here, but I'm going to name them off. So we have Michael Slaughter, who's our board president. Brian House, who's the vice president. He's not here today. Kevin Magruder, who's our secretary. Marilyn Moyer, who's our treasurer. That's me. Trish Gustafson, who is another council rep. I don't think Trish is here. Joanne Lekomsky, who represents the Yellow Springs Community Foundation. Rebecca Potter, who represents the YS School Board. There she is. Steve Weird, who is a Miami Township designee, and we have a vacant spot right now for the Chamber of Commerce. Those are all voting board members. The positions are described in our bylaws. Then we have ex officios, which these are non-voting members, but members of various community organizations. We have Meg Leatherman, Aaron Ariano, Johnny Burns. There he is. He's managing the overflow. Jean Ray Cox, there. Jane Fernandez, I don't think Jane's here. Terry Holden, Terry's way back in the back. And Philip O'Rourke, also way back in the back. Also wanted to let you know this session is being recorded and it will be available tomorrow for playback. It's not a live, you can't stream it from home, you have to be here for the fun. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Joanne Lekomsky, who's going to do a little icebreaker for us.
There's one seat.
Because it's so icy in here, I guess. We're here about a building that everyone's calling the hardware store. So I have a hardware store story. I got to Yellow Springs in 1980 to attend Antioch, and I lived above the hardware store. Pretty magical. I could sit up in the morning when Miami Bank had the clock and the temperature thing, sit up, see what time it was, and I learned, and now you're all going to learn something early in this meeting, that 61 degrees Fahrenheit is 16 degrees centigrade. And 82 degrees Fahrenheit is 28 degrees centigrade. You can't beat that, right? 16, 61, 28, 82. Okay, so a little icebreaker. This is, you can stand up, though it might be a little jumbled to stand up. What I'd like you to do is, if you ever lived above the hardware store, stand up. Oh, come on. Yeah. If you knew Wilbur Deaton, who I made out my check to, raise your hand or stand up. Whoa, all right. If you had heard and kind of understood what YSDC did before this little postcard went out, raise your hand or stand up. All right. Very good. And now, if you could just take a second and think, what one word for you describes that building? And at the count of 3, shout it out. What one word describes the hardware store today? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was helpful. One more. If you think about what the hardware store could be 5 years from today, what's that one word? 1, 2, 3. Excellent. We got that down on the tape. We're all set. Thank you.
We have 2 more seats up front here if you'd like to face the audience. Okay, so I introduced myself, I'm Lisa Abel, board member of the Yellow Springs Development Corporation. You're going to hear us call it YSDC because that's just a little shorter. It's a nonprofit designated community improvement corporation serving both the village and Miami Township. I could spend an hour explaining that, but I'm not going to. There's a lot of details behind that. I do want you to know the state of Ohio grants community improvement corporations significant economic development powers, including the ability to purchase and sell property, issue bonds, and give and receive grants. Our mission is to support, incentivize, and attract economic development in Yellow Springs and Miami Township. We received our designated status in 2020, and our bylaws specify how the board is populated, which I went over who's on the board a little bit ago. By law, 40% of our voting members must be elected officials or their designees. And as we learned after our first year, that doesn't include elected school board members. So really it only includes elected township officers or their designees and elected council or their designees. So 40% of the board has to be made up of those folks. That's state of Ohio law. We are required to adhere to state sunshine laws and their specific exemptions for CICs. So again, we could go on for an hour about this, but we can do that another time. I'm sure I'll get a sellout crowd for this too. Our meetings are typically held the first Tuesday of each month at 4:30 p.m. in the Miami Township Fire Station Conference Room. And the meetings are announced in the Yellow Springs News. I say typically because probably in January it'll be the second Tuesday. We just get a little jumbled up with holiday, end of the year, that sort of thing. But it'll still be announced in the news. More information about us, including meeting agendas, minutes, bylaws, state audit results, Form 990s, projects, policies, and more can be found at ysdc.org. And with that, I'll hand this over to Michael Slaughter.
Can you tell everyone?
Public service announcement. Please turn the sound off of your phones. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Put these on since I can't see. I'm Mike Slaughter. I'm the current president of the YSDC board. I moved here to the village in the late 60s. I attended Mills Lawn, John Bryan, and Yellow Springs High School. And I think some of you in here back in the 70s probably know that Carl had more hair, some of that kind of things. Anyway, I'm a longtime village resident. I knew the Deatons and my family shopped there on a regular basis. The YSDC has entered into a purchase and sale contract for the former hardware store property. Current occupants include 6 residents and the Yellow Springs toy store. We are not yet the owners of the building. A little background. When Bob passed away, many of his commercial properties moved to a trust. The trustees have been tasked with determining when and how to sell each property. In the late summer of this year, a YSDC member spoke with one of the trustees and inquired about the former hardware store building. We'd learned that it would be sold within a year or so. The realtor for the Baldwin Trust invited the YSDC and other parties interested in purchasing the building to a tour sometime in late August. A short timeline was given, and we learned that a public listing would occur by or before September 2nd. To make an offer, the YSDC held an emergency board meeting. We engaged the Yellow Springs Community Foundation Board and staff about funding options. We put together a legal purchase offer, and we gained approval from the YSDC board to make that offer, and we sent the offer letter to the trustees' realtor by September 2nd, the day after Labor Day. The Baldwin trustees provided a verbal acceptance of our offer in mid-September, and they accepted our final offer in writing less than 2 weeks ago. The property is now under contract, but there are several things to do before we can close and gain ownership. Currently, the YSDC is doing due diligence to understand the structural, environmental, historical, and other aspects of the building. This information will help us understand what the building itself will need and when we can complete the real estate closing. We anticipate that we will complete the due diligence and closing, and including transfer of the building ownership by January 2026. We are working with the Community Foundation to secure a loan to purchase the building. Terms of the loan are not finalized yet. We will contract with an experienced property manager to assist with management of leases and building concerns of the folks living and doing business there. All existing leases will remain in effect when ownership transfers. Next, we will assess the building's condition and maintenance needs. We'll create a maintenance and improvement plan. We'll focus on safety standards and tenant needs. And we'll share our findings and proposed plans with the tenants first. We've started a search process to hire a project manager to work out what comes next once we own the building. The specific tasks will be better known after we complete the due diligence phase, leading to the formal purchase of the building. This real estate transaction is of great interest to the YSDC. We're excited to invest in this downtown location and manage its future use. And we cannot do this without the support of the community. We invite you to stay with us on this journey, and if you want to be more deeply involved, volunteer to help us. To begin, you can add your contact information on the sign-in sheets that we're going around, or you can send an email to ysdc@ysdc.org. Since we have limited information at this time, we intend to conduct additional town halls where the community can provide feedback regarding the property. While there are still a lot of unknowns in this process, we want to hear from you, and we want to hear your questions and concerns. If there's something that we cannot answer right now, we will add it to our list to follow up on our website or at our next town hall meeting. At this point, I'd like to open up the floor to questions.
Do you have any questions?
Joanne and I are going to write down any questions that can't be answered. So you'll see us furiously scribing as we go, and we will come up with answers when we get them.
Raise your hand. I'll bring the mic.
And the mic's important. The mic's important so I can get on the recording too. So.
I wondered, is this only for questions or also ideas?
Anything.
Okay.
Time limit.
I don't know if any of you saw my proposal on Facebook, but my proposal was to have a visitor center that could introduce Yellow Springs to whoever comes, but also to have an outlet for residents to have a place where they can sell things that they have made, both at this building, but also online. For a long time, I've had this idea of having something called Yellow Springs Things and a website where people can purchase so that our audience would be much bigger. But anyway, and part of the visitors or welcome center would also have various displays about Yellow Springs, like the Shakespeare Festival and things that are going on now, and have different organizations contribute to, like maybe an organization could create their display that shows what they're about. Anyway, that's enough.
Any other questions or comments? Raise your hand.
One question, what's the third floor like? I'm curious what the third floor, the status of it. Does anybody have any ideas about it? I've always wondered why nobody ever fixed it up.
Okay. And your name?
David Robina.
It's open. So there's nothing much up there. There's some old storage racks. There's a lot of cracks in the walls and the ceiling. Really old windows. Dusty. But it's big. I mean, it's one big space. So.
I'm Kate LeBaycott, and I was wondering if there's any possibility, a more modest idea, if this could become, again, a hardware store. So I used to work in Springfield for about a dozen years, and there they have Brain Lumber, a small, independent, wonderful hardware store. And I don't know if there's any possibility that Brain Lumber would be interested in having a satellite in Yellow Springs, but I thought that might be one way that we could have a hardware store, which seems like such a good idea for a small town.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Carol Cottam, and I'm wondering, was it not possible for you to get an inspection prior to the purchase? Because the due diligence that you're doing sounds like things that might have been covered by an inspection, if that was possible, before the purchase took place. Just curious.
We actually had a pre-inspection walk.
Well, let me just clarify, we don't own the building yet. We're in process of purchasing. So just like if any of you have bought a home, some of you have, you put an offer out, it gets accepted, and then you have so much time to do inspections before you finalize the sale and pay the money. So that's where we're at. We're not actually owning the building, we're actually doing what you suggested. We're doing all those inspections now before we pay the money.
And could
And we did a walkthrough.
Okay. And could I also ask who will pay for your project manager if that's not included in the money that you're getting as a loan from the community foundation?
Did I mention I'm a nosy board member? Anyway, that'll be rolled into the loan, along with other expenses such as paying for asbestos checks and paying for structural engineering checks, and so all that will be rolled into the loan.
Any other questions?
Hi, Kevin Stokes, resident. Kate's idea is not a bad one. I can't remember the small community where there's another hardware store that's able to survive because it's part of a co-op. I understand part of the problem that the prior business had was their size and lack of competition with regard to getting supplies. And so, if there is a similar business that's part of a co-op, then those costs will be shared. My original reason for extending was to wonder, given that the village is also working on a plan for Short Street, to what degree there might be some collaboration between what this space could be and what could happen with Short Street. Happy to pass this one up here and then move it back.
Hi, Jill
Hold
Polly.
on. To answer your question, there could be collaboration. There has been no collaboration. We've been pretty much focused on the hardware store, but we'll keep that in mind.
Hi, Jill Pauley. So I want to mimic what Kevin was saying. I agree. It would be remiss for us not to think about what's going to happen with Short Street and if there's some type of symbiotic relationship that could be had. Also, I mean, this is a big decision, so I'm wondering if it would be a good opportunity to have a proof of concept that is in the form of maybe like pop-up concepts that, you know, sit for like 3 months, 4 months at a time, just to see how it resonates before putting something permanent in place. Thank you.
Hi, Bruce Bredler. So I've heard several people mention a loan. So I'm interested in what is the revenue stream that's going to pay back the loan?
That's, we're doing the math.
Okay.
It depends. Depends on a whole lot of things. It depends on how the space is used, how it could be configured for multi-use, which is what we've been kicking around at this point, and how, what's the right term? The what percent of a year is every space rented? I forget. There's a term for that. But we've got a spreadsheet to plug in those numbers, but a lot of the numbers we don't have yet. So we don't have an estimate on that yet.
There's a couple of hands in the back.
I have a question for the audience. Okay. Do I have to say my name? What's your name? But it's a legitimate question. Okay, say you do the due diligence, and they say that it'd be worth it or less money if you just tear it down and start all over. Would you be prepared to see that happen? No. Because I know there's a lot of fiscal concerns, but at the end of the day, it's just money. So you say, well, what do we get out of it? And I say, well, we get a nice place to live. I think the context of this happening is that the area's been economically decimated since COVID. And Bob Baldwin, that owned most of the property downtown, was in the ripe old age of 91, is what I heard when he passed. And the college, it was failing. And they're selling their assets. And I know this because whoever wants to sell something around here, they come to me first. And we were looking at a mass exodus for years. Why do you think I built a club years ago? Why do you think we're working on the old schoolhouse years ago? So the question is, for the audience, if they say we have to tear it down or spend more money, what is more valuable to you? I invest in our community because I love it and because the best of it has to survive. And I know that people here are old, but you cannot take it with you. One of the greatest things we did was invest in the school. Everyone's property value is going to go up. I have kids in the school. She has a mother in whatever the nursing home is. And if you're a guy my age, trying to see your parents out and see your kids in, man, this is a perfect place to live. I think you should lean into it. It's just money. In time, you'll forget how much pain that it cost the community to change. But I am not the catalyst of this change. The whole world is going through this. And we have an opportunity to try and solve it. I spend my resources here. We all have resources, not just money, but people we know or skills we have. But that's what communities do. So the question is, if they say it's cheaper if you tear it down, would you just do that? I want to know before I invest another cent here, because I really want this place to survive. I hope that we don't get afraid when we talk about investing in our community. So, I mean, you don't have to answer the question to me, but we should think about that. That's all I say. My name is Brian House, by the way.
I'm qualified also, and I was just thinking about Short Street, the question of, and I don't have any consideration whether it should be this way or that way, but I was just thinking if it was set into a park there, that maybe the back half of the hardware store, which is less historical, could be cut into doors and into public restrooms to right there accessible from Short Street, which is now grass and trees, ultimately. Well, the other thought was it'd be nice if there were some way to get into the toy store without those dangerous steps up there.
Hi, I'm Gary Zaremski, resident of the town. I wanted to mention, concerning the hardware store, because I worked at the hardware store part-time the last couple of years before they shut down. And an important element of what led to it shutting down was that the owner, who was very creative at trying to make things work, was totally unable to find a supplier. And nobody, after a broad search, would be willing to provide goods to that small of a shop. And that may have been the key thing that led to it shutting down. So the idea of reopening it, believe me, I enjoyed having a hardware store right downtown. It would be particularly challenging because all the ideas that got brought up are pretty interesting, but you'd be totally dependent on businesses outside of the village and dealing with probably a financial model that probably wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for them. So I just want to point that out. It's a great idea, but it might not be particularly practical. So that's that.
Give him a microphone. Okay. Well, Alvaro de Marci, I am also a resident, but the idea of a co-op can broaden the supply chain. So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, but co-op between different retail outlets, they have to have a reason to do that. Unless there's an existing co-op of hardware stores that you just plug into an existing system, that'd be hard to do. Is there? Okay, well, it's an opportunity for them.
Any other questions? Comments?
Over here behind you.
Karen Gardner, I'm a resident. This is more comment. I was going to suggest before you said it that I'm glad you're looking at multi-use functions for the property, and I'd like to see us concentrate on things that would be of value to the residents more than tourists. I know we need dollars coming in, but I think having a small amount of the hardware store or whatever we can do, I think would be, to me, that would be optimum.
My name is Vivian Markley. I live on High Street. Our home was one that absolutely everybody in the village 7 years ago said should be bulldozed. Same age as this building. Now, if you go down High Street and there is a house painted 13 different colors with all kinds of sculptures and scenes on it, that's my house. Okay? So I have lots of ideas. The thing is I know that this can be done. I absolutely know it. My son-in-law is an urban planner by education. And he has worked on several. He's done the Fifth Street Deli. He did Jay's Market. He did different ones. He did the which I guess a lot of you guys, when you played music and was young, the corner thing there at across from the Dragons. Yeah, and now they've got the copper with the old bars and everything. That is the kind of work he does. And it's always successful. You can do it. You have to want to do it. And as far as what I think is important as a welcome center and an art center and a history center, I think they can all be combined into one plan. I actually gave somebody 7 ideas already that we could go for. One of them will net us $60,000 right off the start. And I think that it is time for our organizations in town to support our downtowns. So I think that as a welcome center, every store can have a display that rotates. Coupons. We just there to give them a taste, give them a coupon, and tell them to go shop in that store. And so generate the business out from, give them a reason why they're going to want to go to every single store in Yellow Springs. So there's a lot more behind it all, but I've seen it done over and over. He's done Maria Stein. Everything that he touched has always it's just a matter of tenacity. And keep on stroking, and you just keep on asking, and you just keep on building it. And just build the dreams, build it, and they'll come.
There you go. Who was that?
Hi, Ann Cooper. I live in Yellow Springs. I don't have an opinion about what should occur there, but I think it would be wonderful if it came with employment opportunities, and that people could live there and or work there and maybe even make enough to live in town.
Hi, Alyssa Paolella. I'm a resident in town. I'm just curious if YSDC plans on being an intermediary for a future sale or the long-term owner of the property, or if you're not sure, but what's the plan? Are you taking it on now and then for a future sale, or is it long-term within the village purview?
We don't know.
Yeah. Short answer is we don't know.
We don't know. Anybody else?
Hello, my name's Riley, a village resident. I work for the funny papers in town. I just a question. If upon a historical survey, the building is deemed to have historical significance, what does that mean in terms of potential revenue streams available to YSDC? So if it's a historically significant building, does that mean more money for YSDC? Does that preclude some options? Does that open up other options?
The historic tax credit is available to buildings that are on the National Register. This building isn't now, but it probably could qualify if it's accurate that it was built in 1853. I'm Kevin Magruder. I'm on the board and also at Antioch College. My previous life, I was working in community development. And so looking at Antioch Hall, we've been exploring over the last couple of years about the historic tax credit. So what it does, it doesn't bring grant money in, but it allows investors to invest, and then they get a credit on their taxes from the federal government. There's a state credit and there's a federal credit, and it all comes through the state historic preservation office. It's kind of involved process, but it could be worth it because it covers between 30 and maybe 40% of a total project cost. So that's one. There are foundations that are particularly interested in historic preservation, so that's another opportunity as well.
Carol Cottom again. So people are talking about a welcome center, but isn't that why we put in the train station? And it was supposed to be the gateway to the village, and we have the Hildebrand Park across the street, and we have the Wheeling God statue, and now it's supposed to be this whole welcoming, informational area for the village, and now we want to move that downtown, and it just makes me feel like, you know, there's some disconnect, because if you're paying back a loan, you really have to have an organization, a business, something in there that's going to have enough revenue to pay you to pay back, or pay whoever is owning the building to have revenue to pay back your loan. We owned a business for 28 years, and we could never have gotten that loan with the kind of cash flow situation that there is, but we would presume that people would have a tenant or tenants that would pay back that loan. So I guess I'm just confused about the welcoming center part of it, and where that would put revenue, where that is in the revenue picture for the development of the property. Laura?
I just want to follow up on Kevin Magruder's comment, Laura Curlis, former village manager. Before that, I was the city administrator in the city of Wilmington. I managed 60 building improvement projects using CDBG Tier 2 funds. So the thing about buildings like this is if you do use funds that involve historicity, you have to basically keep the buildings look the same. Now, you don't have to use exactly the same materials. It's basically a Section 106 review. It's like with like, or it has to end up looking like. And if it's third-story windows, it doesn't have to be historical glass, but on the first floor it does. I very much resonated with Dave's comment that some buildings are not worth saving when you look at a cost-benefit analysis. Unless there's something particularly historically significant about this building, Ohio has hundreds of that kind of building. It's not particularly, in my opinion, unique if you just look around. But anyway, those projects are expensive too, more expensive, because I did the windows at the Murphy Theater in Wilmington, the General Denver, the windows and the tuck pointing and the roofing, in terms of the historicity of those projects. So it's a whole nother level of analysis and funding. When yes, you can get money, but it's also more expensive.
Pass it down.
Hi, I'm Carmen Milano. I did not live above this hardware store, but in college, I lived in a small town where I did live above the insurance office on the square, and I've lived in that situation, and it's really wonderful. And it means a lot to me. The more housing we can bring downtown and use those buildings, the better. Most of us in this room wouldn't live there and climb the stairs, but there are young people who would. And you may or may not know that above the bank, that whole floor used to be residential and could be residential apartments to add to that kind of thing. And the more we can bring vitality and opportunity and density there, affordable as possible, the more energy, and it would be pretty great. So
Hi, my name is Thomas Sain. I currently live above the toy store there. That's my apartment, right above the green there. Anyway, I guess my concern, my question is, as far as the current tenants out there, is there going to be some sort of window as to whether, if you're not going to use those spaces for residential, which they are right now, that second story, will there be some sort of time frame where we could, I think I'll be all right, but I think I speak for some folks that live up there that might not be able to move out right away. Does that make sense? I guess that's what my question is there like some sort of buffer before, if that space isn't residential anymore?
First of all, we don't plan to change anybody that's renting up there. And second, they're probably going to need some things that need to be done, but we are going to work with you to not disturb your living environment as much as possible.
Great. Thank you.
I have one comment, one question. My comment is I've been in town 30 plus years, so not as long as the hardware store. But when I look at it, I don't have any attachment to whether that stays, whether something else is there, whether it looks different, it stays the same. I don't know, just I think cost benefit needs to be analyzed carefully. My question is, where does the funding come from for the YSDC? Because I have no idea how you all get your money. I don't think everything is going to be rolled into loan that you're talking about doing. If you could explain that, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. What we've talked with the foundation about, but we don't have a contract on this yet. But the concept would be that we get about 18 to 24 month kind of bridge loan from the foundation, which buys us some time to figure out financing and investment strategies. Which goes back to what Michael said, we can't do this without the community. We don't have that kind of money. We may be able to leverage some various grants or tax credits, but I think there are a few more zeros behind what needs to be done than we would get from those programs. So that's, but again, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but it's pretty obvious that we're going to need community support to get this done.
Michael, we got a question here. I'm Kellyanne Tracy. So there's been some rumors going around as far as the reasons why you folks have decided to step in. One has been stating that there was investment corporations, investors from outside of the state that were being approached to come in and purchase the property. So could you give us just some more information as to why you felt like it was necessary at this time to step in and purchase it rather than just allow another investor do that?
Sure. We are in touch with some commercial realtors who tell us all the time that they've got folks from the coasts who want to come here. It's cheaper, it's more lucrative, but they also have a price range. And so we had Labor Day weekend to figure it out. So we didn't have a lot of time to really poll people and find out if anybody else was interested. Any of the local realtors knew if someone from out of town wanted to buy this. We didn't know, so we went with what we could do. We don't have a list of people who were potentially going to buy it. We just knew we'd throw our hat in the ring and see what happened.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that you have opened up. I appreciate that you've opened up this process to the community, because maybe some old person or somebody could just buy it up and do what they want. But I appreciate us coming together and working on it.
Hello, community. My name is Sheena Thiessen. I just moved here with my family from the Bay Area, California, Oakland specifically. Me and my husband, we started off as a gallery and kind of evolved more into a guerrilla-style jazz venue. It was quite successful until COVID came. I'm just observing currently right now. I was a teacher at the community center and kind of evolving where I fit and juxtapose in this community. But I just wonder if there's been a call to intergenerational elders and youth coming together more to sustain ideas and how to invest in the community. In Oakland, kind of revolve around that and sustaining. There's huge changes like here, Silicon Valley, tech. It's pushed out a lot of artists and just the whole seasoning and vibrancy of that area. It's kind of sad to talk about, but I don't know the inner politics of this village so much, but I feel like maybe listening to the youth, talking to them more, and asking them about ideas and what that looks like, and bridging the gap between what is old and new in this community might help. I don't know. I think that's a good start. So that's just my 2 cents.
We're not Oakland, we're not Oakland.
I'm Luke Dennis. I'm a resident. I have a suggestion, actually. It's kind of a PR suggestion. I think you should have a really good answer to her question of why you did this, because my understanding was that the potential was for an outside investor to purchase it, and the town would have no voice in what became of this anchor downtown institution, kind of a corner. So my sense was that the reason you're purchasing it and then starting these kinds of town halls is so that you can solicit input on what people who live here want to see in that space. So otherwise they're going to kind of eat you alive on social media or wherever if you don't have a good answer to that question. Because I love why you bought it, if that is indeed why you bought it. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke. We could use some PR. So yeah, I mean, as I said, we had inquired about the building. We knew it was an important spot in the downtown area, and we know, in fact, I have had a couple of different conversations with Jamie Sharp at the toy store over a year or so, where I stood with her for an hour and watched 8 different groups come in, look around, walk out, and pay nothing. So, and she said, this is what's happening. So I've been nosy about this for a while. I've been trying to ask questions. What can we do? How can we do something to help our downtown? I don't want to live here with a vacant downtown. And so, so we knew the Baldwin Estate properties were coming up for sale, and the hardware store seemed like a good location for downtown. Seemed like one that we would really want to get a hold of if we could, or if not us, someone else who had interest in preserving it for the local community, and not someone who would turn it into something we don't really need or want, or turn it into something with higher rents than we would prefer in this community. So that's my left brain answer. Anybody want to give the right brain answer?
I'm Donna Silvert, and I have a comment and a question. So when I hear you say you want community support, that's what I'm thinking. We're all here, but what you're saying is you want community money. You want us to.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Absolutely, we're going to have to figure that out. And, how we can get community to help us financially. But the other piece of that is, if you eat us alive on social media, nobody's going to want to invest, right? Absolutely. They're going to look at that stuff and go, y'all are a mess. So it's both sides of that.
Right. So I just think that's important for us to all know and to buy into when we have these great ideas. The other thing on the housing, I really like that you're going to keep your tenants there now, and I suggest that if it will become residential, that we find a way to support service workers who work in this town to have places they can afford to live in. I know from being on the board of Friends Care, it's difficult to bring in low-paid people who don't have a good car, and if they could live right downtown, and we have lots of other services.
Hi, everybody. Max Crone, architect in town. First, just wanted to let everybody know this building is pretty old. It's had a lot of deferred maintenance, and regardless of what inspections get done, it absolutely will need new windows, new HVAC, new electrical, new plumbing. It really needs a full go-through. Now, if this was a project that was just for a business interest and for profit, then you'd want to do the numbers and figure out, well, what's the most profitable thing we can do with this building? But I don't think that's the goal here. I think the goal here is to do something that's best for the community. And If it's what's best for the community, that means doing something that will be here for a long time. It is possible to salvage this building. Some buildings are salvageable, some buildings are not. This building is salvageable. It's a very nice building, and if we're doing this for the community, I, for one, would like to see this building saved. So in order to do that, I think there has to be some long-term investment, some ideas about how to really get some real revenue out of it once the project is done. But think about it over the long term. You know, you have an opportunity now to get another 100 years out of this building for the community, for our kids, for our kids' kids. So that's what I'd like to see happen.
Are you available, Max?
Hi, I'm Vicki Williamson, and I live in a 1853 home over behind the Mills Lawn, down on the ways. And so I'm into renovation of homes, and I think 1853 doesn't sound too old to me. But I would like to know how many apartments there are and what kind of condition they're in, and the potential for more apartments, and kind of the price range for an apartment downtown. I have no idea. And will it come anywhere near paying the loan? Or what percentage is the potential for the rentals up there, besides what we might be able to get for the actual storefronts? And I also really like the idea, if we're sticking with Short Street, which I'm not a great fan of, but if we do stick with Short Street as kind of a town square, the idea of bathrooms right there would be great.
So I can answer part of your question, which is there are 6 residential rooms, and Tom, help me out. Are one or two? Do one or two have bathrooms?
The 2 above the toy store, mine being in front, and then there's another one in the back, have their own bathrooms, have their own kitchen.
Right. So those 2 have bathrooms.
But they're more of a studio, so I don't have like a bedroom. I have like an open. Yeah. It's like an open floor plan. The 4 above the hardware store are effectively boarding rooms that all share a bathroom that don't have a kitchen at all, and which is wild to me, but whatever. But that's sort of how that's working out right now. That like up front there's a to the left of my apartment. There's a room there, and then there's 3 along Short Street as well.
Yeah, thank you. So just for the audience at home tomorrow, there are 6 rooms upstairs. 2 have their own private bath and some other amenities, and the other 4 are referred to as sleeping rooms, and they share one bathroom down the hall. And I don't know about prices or cost of rents.
Question.
Karen Berger again. So I think a lot of us are thinking of wonderful ideas of what to put in there downstairs. But am I hearing you right that you need to prioritize something that will make some money to help you pay back that loan? Or are you looking more at the community interest and the community good? Like, where's the priority?
Yeah. And this is where I said we're still trying to figure that out. We've got, depending on how long we get this bridge loan, 18 to 24 months to really get our arms around a financial model and figure out if there are investment opportunities or other ways to pay for what needs to happen. So don't know yet.
And just one more thing, just throwing this out there, is there some way to work with Home Inc. or some organization to make those apartments stay affordable and help people with lower incomes live there?
We'll write down the question. We have not had that conversation. We got another question up here. And just a time check, it's getting on 7 o'clock. Just want to let y'all know. Goodies in the back. We've got a question here and then one back there.
A little more of a comment. We rent our upstairs, and so we went through the Airbnb thing and decided we would go with a rent. And as we're researching these things, we are not a Section 8 house, but we were willing to be a Section 8 house. And one of the hardest person to get into Section 8 housing is a single woman. She's number 4 on the list. So if these were designed for single people that could go Section 8, they would not have to pay much rent, and the village gets all the rent for it. So instead of getting, you can maybe get anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 on each. So as you're remodeling them, if you're keeping that in concept and doing 2 floors, I think that would be a benefit to the community.
Where's the other one? Oh, okay.
With the new developments occurring at Antioch, in the Antioch area with the old student union and the Charles Kettering building, and then the new development occurring on East Enon Road, will we have more apartments? And is apartments, affordable apartments, that is still a priority? And if so, who's going to subsidize that? We already purchased the Lawson Place apartment. I'm trying to figure out, are we looking at the whole picture, or is there a reason to sustain 6 apartments when we're getting ready to, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, but when we're getting new apartments that are coming? And affordability, I mean, and who's going to pay for this? So is any money coming from the village or from the tax base?
Oh, yeah, that's been a question, hasn't it? No.
Okay. Just wondering.
Right.
Some of us are,
right. And
not everybody here is loaded with a trust fund.
No, me too. So just to clarify, because this has been raised, I'm going to take a minute to explain this. Last year, YSDC realized we needed to hire a part-time executive director. We put the word out, we interviewed some folks, we made an offer, and at the same time we asked the village for $40,000 to help pay for the position. And then that person rescinded the offer, and then we re-huddled and said, well, now what? And then the village, Johnny said, why don't we have Meg Leatherman serve as that executive director while we figure this out? And so that's what we've done. And that $40,000 we gave back to the village. We also solicited the township for $10,000, and we never received that money, so we didn't have to give that back. So, and in the meantime, we were also asking for the following year for budgeting purposes, because that starts in the fall. So anyway, just to kind of dispel those rumors, we don't have any money from the village from that. The village has 2 seats on the board, and they're members of the board. As members, we asked each person on the board to pay $500 to help sustain our operations, which ends up mostly being legal and website costs. But anyway, that's so just to dispel those rumors, we don't have that $40,000. We don't have the $10,000. We gave it all back, and we never got it. We've appreciated Meg's help with doing what we needed done from a director standpoint, and now we're back to trying to figure out how we're going to do that. Carmen, did you have something?
I just would ask all of us to keep in mind while we're having these discussions that these are people's homes. It's terribly important that we keep that in mind. We're not interested in displacing anyone. And whether there's going to be apartments down the street or not is of no consequence when we're talking about where people lie their head at night.
Thank you. We've got a few up here before we wrap it up.
I'll be brief. I just wanted to thank you all, YSDC, for trying to keep this key part of downtown in local control. One reason I'm here is because I drive through Xenia, and poor downtown Xenia so struggles. And I love our thriving downtown, and I think I hope for the building to stay. It has a nice historic feel. If the numbers really mean we have to do something else, I'm so pleased that we are making the effort to keep it in local control. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take questions from anyone we haven't heard from. So, Mitzi?
Well, I'd like to just say I have a fear factor. And the fear factor is the money and having to pay it back in 2 years. And we've got a village that is currently has a deficit right now of over $500,000. And I'm sure you'll be going to them and asking for money. And I want to thank you for sharing about the $45,000 and that money being given back to the village. But I'm also fearful because of our community and our economy right now, and asking villagers to buy in. When it's tough times for businesses and individuals in our community. So I guess I'd like more information about that loan and what happens, or what's your thoughts in 2 years when you don't have the money to pay for it and pay it back.
So we don't have any terms on the loan. We don't have any paperwork on the loan. We don't have any contract yet, so there's nothing to share. But there will be. And I think Michael mentioned earlier in his talk that we will continue to have these town halls so that we can keep you informed. And I also wanted to just make the offer. On the sign-in sheets, there's 3 boxes you can check. I didn't see anyone check that they want to be a volunteer and help us out, but you're stuff time. So the 3 boxes are: do you want to help? Do you want to volunteer? Do you? What are the other 2 boxes?
One-on-one dialogue.
Oh yeah, one-on-one dialogue. So that was the other one thing I wanted to bring up. I was raised in the era of before social media, and so I much prefer face-to-face. I'm not gonna get on that bulletin board and argue with folks. I would rather have a dialogue. I'm offering that. If anyone wants to have a one-on-one with me, Michael, anybody else on the board, you can sign up for that. And what was the third thing?
Project manager.
Oh yeah. So Michael mentioned that we're going to be soliciting a project manager to help us through these next couple of years and do all these details. If you know someone, or if you're interested, let us know. We'll be posting the job pretty soon. So hang on a second. Anyone else who hasn't spoken, who has a question? Oh, Dorothy.
I wanted to thank you for 2 things that you're doing. You're allowing us to have a conversation about this before an investor comes in. I appreciate the pause that you're giving so that we as a community have a space to come and debate this. And I'm thankful for how you're giving us also a reality check on the fact that maybe this building cannot stay up. And I'm saying a big maybe here. But I think that we can all think of a building that is about 100 years younger than this one, whose renovation is costing us about 12 million more as a community. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else that didn't have a question or comment wants to speak? Okay.
I'm curious about the project manager thing. I can see a project manager to handle the rentals,
and keep on top of that, but we don't really have a project yet. So what is the project manager going to project beyond the rentals?
Oh, we could talk for an hour about this. Because I've been kind of filling in, and there's a lot ahead. I mean, yeah, so two things. We're going to have a property manager to handle the people who are renting, the people in the businesses who are renting, because that's a whole nother expertise. Project manager is figuring out all these other details. How many pages we have up here now? 7, 8? Figuring out those things and more. Figuring out the financial models. Figuring out, helping to lead discussions around the space concept. I mean, all that stuff and more. Okay, Gary, one more thing.
Project manager also taking the data that we're going to be getting, the due diligence. Oh, yeah. The project manager doing the whole due diligence part as well. Yep.
Yeah, Gary Zaremski again. I just wanted to make a comment sort of tying together a lot of what I'm hearing. Several people have mentioned that the reality is this building, taking care of this building is going to cost a tremendous amount of money. Needs to go into this building to get it up to some sort of standard. The reality, if there's going to be some sort of private investment to do that, and I mean, the only way that works would be to do something that most people here probably don't want to see, like some sort of high-end boutique and on the ground floor and high-end apartments up above. It doesn't seem like anybody wants that. In order to do any of these other things that people talk about and get the building into reasonable shape, is going to ultimately require a great deal of donation, grants, stuff like that. I think that's going to ultimately be a really key element of this project is the fundraising to make it into something that the community really wants to see. I think that's the only way it's going to happen. And that'll be a challenge. I hope this community has done it in the past. So we'll see.
Okay, thank you. There will be additional town halls. We'll post it as soon as we can.